So today's guest is not only a friend, but a business partner. His name is Randy Rosales. He's originally from Maracaibo, Venezuela, which is a really, really hot place, from what I understand.
With hot people.
With hot people. Good to know. And he is an attorney by profession. That's what you studied.
Mm-hmm.
You've launched a company where you hire over 140 people to companies throughout the world.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing is helping companies actually meet their human resource needs at a cheaper cost than they would locally, or even at a sensible cost to just get the type of talent that they're looking for. Your story is quite interesting because you're someone who moved from one South American country to this city that we're in, Medellin, Colombia. What I want to talk about today, so that anybody who's considering relocating, especially those who are in similar situations, is what has that journey been like for you, and really kind of giving people an idea of what are the possibilities here. So first and foremost, thank you for joining me here on ENTP Life, where we cover living globally and how to afford it. It's always a pleasure talking to you. We spend a lot of time talking anyway. But just so we could kind of take the listeners through what has kind of happened and what led you here, why is it that you moved to Medellin, Colombia?
Got you. Yeah, thank you for having me here. It's great to be here again after the 2020 interview. I think it was one of the first interviews in the channel back during the pandemic times in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Well, what inspired me or motivated me to move to Medellin in the first place is because I have in-law family here. So for my wife and kids, it's already a familiar place where they can visit and hang out with people they already know. And the second reason is because it's so close to Venezuela that for Venezuelans and for business purposes, it was a good decision to come to a closer country than to a further country for transportation issues. I still travel back and forth to Venezuela very frequently, like 6 or 5 times a year. And also because of its proximity to the US. There is a super fast and cheap flight from Medellin to Fort Lauderdale, where we have the company registered, and it's super convenient to come here, catch that flight, 3 hours, be in the States, do business and come back. So for those reasons, and also because of the attractive of the city, you can see it through the windows, right? Very green city, but also very modern with a lot of restaurants and good night outing settings.
Okay. Why did you choose to leave Venezuela?
I don't feel that I haven't left completely because the business is there, the headquarters are there, we have our house there, we have all our furniture, we didn't sell anything there, and I travel so much there. However, my kids are going to school here, we're going to a bunch of activities here, so we're spending most of the time here. The main reason was because my wife was concerned about security in Venezuela. So she wanted to live in a place where she could have more peace of mind and feel safer with the kids walking in the streets and going out with them. So that's the main reason. But also for business expansion. We thought that we were getting a lot of requests from clients for positions that were more difficult to cover in Venezuela because of all the people leaving the country. So we thought about Medellin, since it's one of the major cities in Colombia, and there are a lot of expats living here, there are a lot of English-speaking people living here, and we thought it would be a good marketplace for us to recruit and staff this talent with our clients.
Cool. So I think I want to talk a little bit about the safety issues, right? Because a lot of people who contact me will question whether or not Medellin is safe. Now, you said that you wanted to leave, or that you did leave Venezuela because of your wife's concerns about safety in Venezuela. What is the current situation there, and what is that level of unsafety like?
Great question. Yes, we get that question a lot from friends that we have made here in Colombia. Honestly, it's gotten better nowadays than a few years ago. Why? Because many of the criminals have left the country too. They don't have anyone to rob anymore. So they are fleeing all over Latin America, and that's of course causing an immigration problem. That's why Venezuelans are requested visas in many Latin American countries, Ecuador, Peru, Chile, now and Panama or Dominican Republic, so on and so forth. So I think it's safer nowadays, but still it has its risk, right? So there is no amount of money that also can afford the peace of mind that you get when you are living in a more secure and safer country. But I would say it's better nowadays than before. It's like in Medellin and in many Latin American cities. Just don't give papaya, as they say here. Don't put things easy, or don't be a target for criminals to rob you or to do any criminal acts against you.
What sort of crime were you experiencing or were you witnessing in Maracaibo that would kind of prompt your wife to say, hey, I think we need to get the hell out of here?
Got you. Well, we got our car stolen twice at going point, and one of the times we were with the kids, they were pointing also at the kids, so they allowed us to drop off the car, and they took me with them. So it kind of was kind of a car robbery with Kidnap Express, because they drove me in the car with them for a couple of, I don't know how much time it went by, maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, and they dropped me off very far away from where we live. So those concerning things make you meditate and reassess what is the need of you being in a country when you can do the same job remotely.
Gotcha. So how would you compare the safety differences in Maracaibo to Medellin, right? Medellin has that history of narco trafficking, also kidnappings and that sort of thing. And what I know is that a lot of people are kind of familiar or know about Medellin through the Narco series, or this kind of drug culture that Medellin is known for. Being from a place that has really gone through some tough economic times and even has current safety issues, how would you compare the relative safety?
What we think about Medellin is that it has safe neighborhoods and not as safe ones. So as long as you keep yourself in the safer areas, as long as you don't expose yourself to criminal activities, as long as you're not drunk and drugged walking down the streets very late at night, you should be fine. The difference with Maracaibo is that there aren't safer neighborhoods. You can get robbed or encounter criminal activities anywhere, even in the best neighborhoods, in the richest ones, or more even in the poorest ones. So that's what I will say the difference is, that there you can get robbed, or you could get robbed anywhere. Here is more of where you are, who you are hanging out with, what times are you going out, and more of that.
So where would you say are the safer places for people to live, right? You're a family guy, you have children, you've got a wife here. Where would you pick as the places to live, and why those areas?
Here in Medellin, I would say Poblado area, but I know a lot of expats that are living by Laureles, which is nearby the stadium of Medellin, and it's got into a very cosmopolitan neighborhood. But of course, Poblado is like the richest neighborhood in the city, and is where most of the money is. So there are more security cameras, there is more police supervision, and I will say there is less criminal activity because of that.
What would you say are like the maybe top 5 locations? Like, you live closer in the Poblada area, or like the greater Poblada area, but what other neighborhoods would you consider? Right, as you were looking at where you're going to live, what were the options that were kind of?
Yeah, we liked also Envigado, which has very nice neighborhoods too, and it's nearby Medellin. And also inside Medellin, we will say Laureles, which is by the stadium, and it's flat, has a lot of restaurants, a lot of coffee shops. And also Manila neighborhood, Castropol, which are kind of in Poblado area as well, but they are their own neighborhoods.
I think that's different for everybody when relocating is like the actual immigration process. Now, for those of you who don't know the history behind Venezuela and Colombia, there was actually a larger country that existed that was called Grand Colombia, right? So that was Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, Colombia, and Venezuela.
Correct.
And because of that, there's kind of like a common underlying law between them. So your immigration process is going to be a lot different than, at least I imagine it's going to be a lot different than my immigration process in securing residency here. What was the actual process of you moving to Medellin and being able to have your family here on a full-time basis?
Yeah, interesting question. Yeah, as you said, for Venezuelans, but mostly because of the immigration crisis and the political crisis there, more than because of the history and because of where it used to be a unified Grand Colombian country. It's more of a humanitarian and political crisis going on there. Colombia was receiving a lot of immigrants from Venezuela, and a lot of them, the majority of them, were coming by foot, walking. So they needed to kind of legalize that, and they needed to put a number and a code to all these Venezuelans coming in illegally anyway. So they created this document, this law protection, which is called it's like a temporary permit of protections specifically designed for Venezuelans. So for Venezuelans who have arrived before January this year, they were able to request the permission, and it's simply and fastly granted, and you just have to go to immigration, have your pictures taken, your fingerprints, and then you have a document that allows you to rent offices, rent places, work legally here. So it's super easy for Venezuelans because of this humanitarian decree launched by the previous government in Colombia.
Yeah, that's kind of an important fact, because by comparison, my process was to build a business here, right? That I had to build a business, employ people here. Now, the way that I managed that process was that I already have been working with you and had resources in Colombia through your company, Freelance. And the stipulation of a foreigner getting residency here through building a business is that you have to employ people locally, Colombians or legal residents of Colombia, and you need to prove that you're employing them. So my process was to convert some of my staff that was subcontracted through your company into full-time resources for me. And that was the only way that I could qualify. It was either that, buy a property for about $130,000 to $150,000, or get married. And I'm already married, so I can't marry a few Colombian girls to obtain residency.
But you can become Venezuelan and then get the residency with this decree.
I probably could. But the path that I took was just the employment path. And I think it's kind of important to talk about the process of relocating to a new country, because there's things that a lot of Americans don't think about. A lot of the times, people who are contacting me because they're thinking about relocating here, they've seen the videos online about Medellin, they don't know how restricted they're going to be once in Colombia to handle basic essentials like getting an apartment lease, opening a bank account. Those things aren't as simple, because the expectation here is what? You need to get a background check for your apartment to qualify, right? There's like a credit rating system. To open a bank account, you either need a cosigner that is local, or you need Colombian documentation to prove that you can open a bank account here. So you really have to take the immigration process seriously. And one of the things that we've been doing now with the people who contact us is help them actually either get their digital nomad visa, get their investment visa, and we're going to start helping people get their residency through purchasing real estate.
Is the Nomad Visa program already active?
It's already active.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's already active. I actually have one of my friends, Marco and Denise. We actually, they're guests here as well. They just got approved for their digital nomad visa. And the requirements are a bit softer than the retiree visa. That's another option that people have, is to prove that they're getting retirement income. Military retirement doesn't count. It has to be a pension, or it has to be Social Security income, or it has to just be pure investment revenue. It has to be classified that way on your tax return. But the digital nomad visa, I believe you have to make like only $700 a month from an external source to qualify. So that's going to be one of the simpler ways, but it only gives you stay for about 2 years. And there's still some sort of restrictions. You can't work, right? You won't be able to be employed here. You don't have as many permissions. It allows you to stay for more than 90 days or 180 days if you extend, but it doesn't give you full residency rights. So that's the challenge there. Was it difficult for you to make the decision to pick up and relocate?
Well, I had visited the city many times before moving here. So I kind of knew the city, I knew the transportation system, it's excellent, I knew all the options and the possibilities the city has to offer. So for me, it wasn't a big challenge. And because I didn't have to quit my job or restart a new business, it was it was better structured for us. And in reality, when I came the first time with my wife and kids, we only came to enjoy the holidays with her family here, and we weren't thinking about relocating. But then we saw the opportunity. They liked the city, they liked the fact of being close to their relatives, and we just gave it a trial. And for us, it was very easy, because we had the money to afford cost of living. We knew people in the area who could advise us on where to rent, which are the safer neighborhoods. And also renting an office for the company was super easy as well, because in these, let's say, international co-working space chains, as WeWork and Regus and others, they accept your US company paperwork. So a US company can rent an office directly with the US paperwork here with these international chains. So that was very easy for us, and for us, we found a place that is across the street from WeWork office, and it was extremely convenient during the entire process. Now, getting the kids into school was fairly easy as well, even though you have to sign off a lot of documentation in notary and a bunch of paperwork. But once you get that done, kids can start school, private schools, and you can, start living your life normally.
So let's actually take a step back to the schooling thing, right? Because there are people who are watching this that do have children, and that's a question. What are you doing about your kids' education?
Yeah, we have them in a private school, but there are many other options for expats too. There are schools that are very Americanized, with American curriculum, with English-speaking teachers throughout the day. So if that's something that expats will be interested in, there are a lot of options in the city that offer that. Usually they are the higher tier ones, so they are the more expensive ones, because they need to find staff here that is bilingual, that speaks fluently English, and also it's educated in the fields that they are going to be teaching on. But the options exist. And for us, what we like about the city for the kids, it's all the other activities they can do around. For example, they are in ballet classes, they are in urban dance classes, they go to karate, they go to music classes, they go to software development classes for kids, and there are also robotic classes for kids. So I think education here is very good, is very advanced, and it has a lot of good options for extracurricular activities for the kids as well.
Okay, let's talk about the price of each sort of school bracket, right? You have public schools that are free, right? Then you have the private school that you have your kids enrolled in. What is the cost of that setup, and what is the difference between, from what you could see, that private setting and the public schools?
Yeah, we are paying around $300 per kid. It usually gets a little bit less expensive once the kids get older. So because my kids are in kindergarten and in elementary school, those fees are higher.
So it's $300 per kid per month?
Per month, correct.
And that's for the school year or for the whole year?
That's on a monthly rate, and you have to pay it monthly during the entire year.
Okay, so 12 months, $3,600 per kid.
Correct.
Okay. And what would you say is the main difference between the public setting and that private setting? And why was that your choice?
Well, because in private schools, there are more rules, and teachers are more on top of the kids. In public schools, they kind of they kind of could do whatever they want. They have less supervision, and also because of the connections, right? You get better connections if they are going to a private school. You have different type of friendships and different type of families too. So we were looking for something that is kind of in our same lifestyle and study with families with our same goals and ambitions. So we wanted the kids to be exposed to that. In public schools, you could be exposed to other social issues and other family realities that we didn't want our kids to be exposed to.
Okay. And one thing that's kind of funny about Colombia, I still can't wrap my mind around it, is the actual school year. Mm-hmm. It's different than the U.S. school year. Like the U.S. school year starts like end of August, beginning of September, and ends in like May, June, with like the winter break or the break in the middle of the year around Christmas time and New Year's. Here it's different. Can you just explain to me how the school year is set up?
Yeah, actually what you just explained is exactly as the Venezuelan school year, what they were used to. So when we moved, they had to wait like a couple of weeks to start the new school year because it starts in January and ends by the end of November. But here they have also this American school calendar too. So you have that option as well to study from September till June next year. So they have both calendars actually. They call it calendar A and calendar V. And depending on the school you choose, you can decide whether to register your kids with.
So in the private school that your kids go to, do they have the two options?
No, they only have the option January till November.
Okay. And then the American schools you took a look at as well. What did you notice about them and what was a kind of price structure that you saw?
So for them, we visited an American school that even offers an exchange on the last school year, and they go to Canada or they go to the US, and they have international high school degrees. So if they finish the high school in those schools, they can go to the university in any country because they are recognized internationally. But the price range is higher. So for example, per kid, there it will be like $700 per kid, where we have the kids right now, it's $300 per kid, right? So it's more than double.
And what about the quality of the schools?
Well, they were pretty good. The facilities were awesome, very American styled, and all the lessons were in English. So of course, for us, that was something important to consider back then. Well, we have 3 kids, so it's triple the price for everything.
Yeah, but by comparison, in some countries, like my cousin is in Singapore, and those American schools are like $30 to $50K a year per kid. In the US, like the high tier private schools, like the prep schools, they're gonna range from $30,000 a year to even $60,000 a year on the high end per kid. So from the description of what you described, you have your public schools that are free. You have like your parochial Catholic schools that are about $300 a month per kid. In the US, that's currently like closer to the $700 per month per kid mark. And then the highest level was $700 per month, or like $8,000 a year. But again, in the US, it's like 5 times more expensive than that. So from a value proposition, it still seems like the more affordable option for the US audience. Like it is more expensive compared to kind of the income range of people here in Colombia. But comparing it to the United States, England, Canada, where you're gonna have like these really high cost educational systems, it still seems like a bargain.
Yeah. Same with the other extracurriculum activities. Like for example, we are paying $100 per kid in dance and ballet classes in a very nice academy nearby Poblado area.
And that's per month or per week?
That's per month. And we're paying like $20 for karate twice a week per kid, right? And then I'm paying for myself, I'm going to a chess club here in Medellin, and I'm paying like $30 for 2 months and having classes every Sunday for 2 months, 2 hours each Sunday. So it's extremely affordable. Like I'm also studying French here, and I'm paying like $120 a month for a super intensive French course, Monday through Thursday, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. With very good teachers. Some of them are even foreigners. They come from France or from Quebec in Canada or from African French-speaking countries. And there is a great exposure to the French culture and the French language at a bargain of the price. I wonder how much that will be in the US, but definitely much higher than $120 a month.
Yeah. You might pay $120 per lesson in a high quality like dance school. So on the cheaper end, you're looking at maybe $40 per lesson, and kind of the premier schools, you're looking at like that 100 or more per lesson, and depends if it's one-on-one or not. So yeah, things for me that's always been the draw of Colombia or South America. Like the large South American cities are all kind of progressive in their own way.
Correct.
There's education, there's good infrastructure, or good enough infrastructure compared to other places that I've seen.
And the quality that you get against the cost effectiveness of everything.
Yeah, it can't be beat, and it's on every level, right? So from a housing standpoint, it's cheaper to live here than in like the English speaking countries. From a social life to restaurants, again, it's cheaper. Your kids' education, it's cheaper. The cost of staff is cheaper. So like for me, that was the main draw. Like I'll give a little backstory as to how we got started. So my home care company has like an on-call schedule, right? We need to provide 24/7 call support. And my wife is actually kind of like sister cousins with Randy's wife. And she was telling me about the situation in Venezuela and the cost of labor. And I started thinking about, well, why not try to outsource my call to Venezuela, because it's going to be a lot cheaper, and then I'll have more resources than paying a third-party company or having management within the company, working overtime, getting beeper pay. So I thought, well, let me give this a try. It's inexpensive enough. And I got introduced to Randy, and we set up an arrangement where he would assemble the staff that was necessary to provide us with 24-hour call support. So that was starting at 5 p.m. during the week, all and covering the entire weekends up until 8 a.m. in the morning or 8:30 in the morning when my staff would come into the office. And it was at such a discount to what we would have to pay in overtime or beeper pay that it just made sense to take on that workforce. And once we tested the strategy out and saw that there was potential there, we started to build out our work staff in that particular office. We got to one point, we were at like 20 or so resources just working for our home care company.
Yeah, correct. Like back in 2018, we were 15 people there working in different areas: staffing coordination, on-call coordination, recruitment, HR assistants, all the major assistential positions in a home care business.
Yeah, and I really think it's something like when people ask me about how do I manage my business from abroad, or what sort of tips do I have for companies that are just getting started, one of the best things that I could have done in my company was start to work with outsourced staff. Main reason being, to get any decent American employee that is college educated, that can kind of do the administrative work that we need, is going to cost on the low end $40,000 and on the higher end $80,000 per resource, right? And that's going to be kind of quality workers that can execute on the job that we need them to do. By comparison, I could get 4 to 5 resources on the same budget. So imagine how more efficient your operation becomes because you have lower cost staff. The ratio of work to employee could be adjusted so services get improved. And I'm a huge advocate for it. Outside of, promoting the service and matching people that work with our company to these resources in South America, aside from benefiting from that, I find that it's actually the direction that most people should go in. You should have a global workforce at this point. You can take advantage of schedule differences, time differences in different parts of the world, the language set from native language or native Spanish speakers to bilingual people to people who speak, other languages. It's such a value add for what I would consider to be not so much money. Now, you've been running this business for 5 years now, right? You just cleared 5 years. How has having your own business allowed for you to start living kind of like this globalized lifestyle where you're able to spend time in France and still have your business running, or spend time in the US and still have your business running, or even uproot your entire family to relocate to a country?
Because of the power of the US dollar, right? The fact that you have your income attached to a hard currency as the US dollar allows you to live globally, because cost of living in other countries is so much cheaper compared to cost of living in the US or to the US dollar power of purchase in these Latin American countries. So for us, it's been a ride and it has taught us a lot, but it has allowed us to live globally anywhere we want. And Colombia, of course, was the first choice because it's closer to Venezuela, easy to get in and get out, and also because of all English-speaking people living here and cost of living in the country. So for us, that was like the motivators to make the decision to come here.
Where else have you been considering living?
Well, we like also Canada because of the system, the education system, because of the Canadian culture, and because it's also a country where we have customers. So enables a company's expansion if I'm there having business meetings, meeting business owners, and presenting these opportunities to hire people in Latin America. So that's another country we have been considering. I visited France in June this year. I think compared to the US, the European Union countries are less expensive. They enjoy more life and free time and sharing with each other. I saw you went to Italy, so they have kind of the same vibes of enjoying life. And
they'll tell you they're completely different though.
Yeah, enjoying themselves.
They don't get along, but I understand what you're saying. They're culturally very similar. Work isn't their top priority. They work to live. They don't live to work. That's not their MO. They can't understand how we could be in that country, and instead of going out for dinner, we're at our desk.
Yeah.
Trying to crank out some dollars. So it's culturally, I think people who are relocating from the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, when they go to any of the kind of romance cultures, whether it's Western Europe or South America, you'll see that paradigm shift of a greater focus on the quality of your life and enjoying your friends and family over finance, which is unusual for the hardwired American capitalist. The fact that you're earning in US dollars allows you to do something that's rather interesting. Like you said, you're able to kind of take that income with you wherever you go. When I speak to people who are thinking about relocating to anywhere in the world, whether it's Italy or South America, I always try to find out or teach them how could they earn anywhere that they are. Your company is based in Venezuela. How does moving about actually improve your business and your earning potential?
We are building an international company, right? So our headquarters are in Venezuela. That's where our main offices are. However, we want to build an international company that allows all of our virtual assistants, all of our freelancers to work from whichever country they prefer in Latin America, and they can have like a different experience on each country and profit from it and grow from it. And that's kind of the plan, like to build an office here in Colombia and expand the office. Currently, we have 8 people outsourced here, placed with clients. Some of them are with you. I think 3 of them are with you. The others are with other companies in the US. And the idea is to keep expanding that. We have 2 virtual assistants in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And that's the next step, to go to Argentina, to set up a larger operation there, and to start contracting people there. And the idea is go to Argentina, then to Chile, then to Ecuador, then to Peru, Panama, Mexico, and then having built an international company where all of our staff can work wherever they want from Latin America and get this experience. So if they want to immigrate or if they want to leave Venezuela, they don't have to cross the U.S. river, they don't have to cross the U.S. border, they don't have to cross the jungle and go there by foot, but they can leave Venezuela, work in one of the countries where we have offices, keep their income, keep their job, keep the experience, and keep growing professionally and personally as they have the opportunity to live abroad.
So even the employees are earning in US dollars?
Yeah, all the employees are earning in US dollars. That's what makes our job so attractive, because they're making more money than the average market rates in Latin American countries. And in hard currencies, like for example, Colombian peso is very heavily affected by inflation now. Like for example, I'm paying 20% less rent today than a year ago in US dollars. I'm paying less US dollars for my kids' education, for my kids' extracurricular activities, and for rent because of the devaluation of the Colombian peso. And it's the same in other Latin American countries. Every time the Federal Reserve raises the interest rates, all Latin American currencies suffer because they have their external debt attached to the US dollar. So of course, it's very convenient in high inflation period times to live in Latin American countries where the US dollar can take you further. And that's one of the advantages that we offer as a company. We even have some of our staff traveling to Colombia, and because they can work remotely, they can go to the Bad Bunny concert, the Daddy Yankee concert, they can go to Bogota, to Medellin, and still work from an Airbnb with the work equipment that we provide, with all the setup that we provide that they take with them wherever they go, so they don't have to use their personal items for that, and we can guarantee service, quality of service for the clients with professional work equipment, and they can work remotely from wherever in the world. So they are having that experience already. Some of your staff that you have here, they came from Venezuela. So they are Venezuelans that moved to Colombia and then started working from here. And we have had others doing the same. And that's what we want to build, like the same international global lifestyle that I want for myself and for my family. I want my staff to have it and to experience it as well, because it makes you grow as a person, traveling, meeting new people, meeting new cultures, meeting new ways of doing things. And then all this knowledge, you take it back to the country whenever you return. That way you also make the country a little bit better, more modern, more organized, with better ways to do things.
I totally agree with you. That's one of the main reasons why I like to live internationally, because you get to see gaps in different systems, and you actually get to learn how other people are operating and functioning in the world.
Exactly.
If it wasn't for me dating my wife at the time, I wouldn't have known what the economic situation of Venezuela was, to know that we could provide above average wages, but get below average cost employees. So everybody wins in that situation. People may think that outsourcing services is predatory in a way, because we're paying so much cheaper than we would in the United States. But if you're paying people 2 and 3 times, sometimes 4 times the average or minimum wage of their country, that's a win for them and a win for the employer. Now, a thing that I personally see, and the way that I would kind of structure myself if I was a US company that wasn't already outsourcing staff, or if I were just a kind of like a creative entrepreneur in a way, is I would totally use outsourced staff to provide kind of day-to-day administration of my business or my job. For example, this is what I mean, and I don't know if you have any clients who function like this, but if I were a graphic designer and I had enough volume that, hey, I'm making $100,000 a year, I could turn around and hire a graphic designer from your company to back me up, that will allow me to either do more work at the US bill rate, or kind of divest some of my work to that resource to free up time. So I would be able to still generate income from the United States, have additional resources, travel the world, and be able to do so with greater efficiency and without risking losing my income source. So when people come to me and tell me, I would love to move but my job, or I would love to move but my business, I always tell them, why aren't you hiring staff internationally and building the proper infrastructure? In your operation, are you assisting any of your clients kind of like redesign their infrastructure so that they can kind of buy their time back? Or do the companies that are working with you kind of depend on you just for the resource itself and not so much for the business modeling?
Usually they look for us for resources, right? For talented and cost-effective resources. But me as the business owner, once that I start getting to know the business, the client's business, and getting to know them in a more professional level, because we have seen this so many times, we are able now to advise them on which road they could take. And because nowadays technology, and after the pandemic even more, enables so many things to work remotely, for them it's kind of a no-brainer. If they can get, in your example, a graphic designer at 20% of the cost of a graphic designer in the US, but with the same university education, bilingual, talented, and people who you will be paying 3-4 times what the average local market rate is, guess what? That person is going to be super motivated, super excited, and super committed to give the 100% of them to you. And maybe employees in other countries where they can find similar opportunities around the corner, they wouldn't be as committed, or they wouldn't be as loyal, or they wouldn't give their 120% because they could find the same job opportunity elsewhere. And that's what has produced their great resignation in the US. People are quitting their jobs because they can find another job that allows them to work from home or allows them to earn what they want remotely. And even with inflation, now the labor market in the US is pretty strong. People keep still hiring, right? So why not doing that in Latin America, where you will have people that are earning more than the average and that therefore will take care more of the job opportunity that we are providing to them? So with technology, it really enables remote supervision. There are monitoring softwares that you can install in your outsourced staff computers to have peace of mind if you like that kind of management styles, and to know what they are really doing, even if you are not in the same physical office as them. Like, for example, we have had clients that they have luncheon meetings in the US. But they invite the outsourced staff in Venezuela or in Colombia to have lunch too. And they have a video call and they all share as if they were in the same local office. Same with anniversary gifts or with Christmas bonuses. They can send all of these birthday cards, messages, gifts to their staff as if they were in their local offices. And that's kind of what we encourage them to do, like treat them with the same rules and culture as if they were in your local office, because that also will make them feel part of your company and will make them more identified with your company and your goals.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And that's kind of why we developed our partnership. What I saw in the healthcare space, I consult home healthcare companies and healthcare staffing companies. And healthcare is kind of overloaded with bureaucracy. So much paperwork, so much detail that goes into the work that in order to do it properly, you need a lot of administrative staff. What I started to realize is that a lot of our clients need the same sort of help, especially in the early stages. They're just getting started. They may be ready to hire employee 1 or 2. And what I started to realize is that they've never hired out of the country before. And when they did, they worked with companies that really don't understand the business model. So they'll go to the Philippines or to India or any other place, and these people have no idea how the US healthcare system works. So what we decided to do was create a training program specifically for administrative resources for healthcare companies. That way they come in understanding the the language of healthcare, understanding what HIPAA compliance is, what medical record compliance is, what personnel compliance is, how to recruit staff, how to coordinate and place staff, all of the little micro details. We've assembled a training method for them to fit seamlessly into the companies that we support. Mm-hmm. And it's just more and more evidence of kind of the direction that the world is going in. We've moved away from this very localized economy to
mm-hmm.
a true global economy
mm-hmm.
where everything is intertwined. If you're not doing international business at this point, you're really falling behind the curve. And that's unanimous. Apple develops their phones in China. Most manufacturing companies have brought their manufacturing overseas. A lot of tech companies have resources spread throughout Eastern Europe,
Asian countries, Latin America,
Brazil, you name it. So if you are looking to move forward economically, or you're looking to move forward so that you're having a richer experience as a human being, the direction to go in is global living and globalifying your workforce.
Yeah, and in our experience, we have had customers in the US that start their businesses with one outsourced freelancer, with one VA, virtual assistant, and then they see they are so educated, they have great English skills, they have great work ethic, that soon enough, as was your experience, for example, they start asking for more and more and more positions and delegate all these tedious tasks and time-consuming tasks. And at the same time, providing a great way of living, a great wage for Latin American resources. So they don't have to go to the US and emigrate to the US, but they can stay in Latin America, make a better living for themselves and their families, earn more than the majority of the population here, and at the same time help entrepreneurs and business owners in the US, Canada, and other first world countries, let's say, to really develop their businesses in a cost-effectiveness way, and also to achieve their goals without having to sacrifice their profit, especially in the early ages. So for us, it's really a win-win situation. It's creating opportunities for both business owners in the US, Canada, and Europe, and Latin American talent.
I really want to thank you for taking the time out to come, because for the most part, the people who are watching the channel are a combination of people who are interested in living globally and business owners, right? Because that's what I talk about on the channel. And I think your perspective is a lot different than my typical guest, because you are fundamentally a business owner that is from the environment that we're emigrating to, but you've also had your own emigration story. So I really thank you for coming out. And for anybody who is interested in working with Randy's company, I'm going to have a link down below. So if you need help building out your workforce, or even need some guidance on how you can kind of scale up your business, he scaled up from 3 employees to 150 employees. He's going to be the guy that you want to reach out to and get the help that you need to redesign your employment team, or even redesign the systems in your business so that you're able to take advantage of a global workforce and be able to build your business in a way that will allow you to live globally as well. Cool.